for this audience about what we've learned, the value that we get from working with the sector? Yeah,
absolutely. We're trying to enthuse brands into not just thinking games is great, but to actually come up with ideas and practical ways that they can actually facilitate it and get stuck in. What we're going to do, or I'm going to do after the event, is contact everyone that signed up. It's a webinar deliberately because we've not got brands here that are being exposed to everyone else. We had this issue before where we did an event a couple of years ago. Some brands turned up and everyone was around them like bees around a honey pot saying, oh, can I have some money? We don't really want to do that. What we want to do is provide a slightly more curated service. So we're going to give them some inspiration today. And afterwards, I will contact all of the attendees and say, right, you heard about these aspects. Do you want to find out more? And then I will connect them to companies who can help them with that. So this is very much stage one of that sort of education process. Yeah. So I'm pretty confident that whatever you say, David, will be, it's always useful. It's always powerful.
Well, we'll see. Well,
well, yeah, I'll tell you in 20 minutes. I'll also, so I'll do a gentle intro. We're going to run a little 1-minute video on Yuki. Leon, you ready to cue that up? And then I'll come to you in turn. I'll come back in between because I'm going to introduce the next person, having asked a couple of questions. Your cameras will be cut off, so you'll go blank. Leon will control it in the background so that he'll, mute you and turn the cameras off. You'll get a prompt to say, start your camera, please, so that you start it when it's your turn to speak. It's a very odd experience because there will be people listening, but you're not going to see them. You're not going to get any feedback. They're not going to laugh at your really funny jokes. You're not going to get any of that response, which you need at a live event. There's 2 different audiences. There'll be people that have signed up to watch it on this, and also it's going to be shown on YouTube. So quite a few of our audience likes to watch it on YouTube for some reason. So it'll be there as well. We've had, I think last count was about 135 sign-ups, 140 sign-ups. So we'll see what that actually turns into. What we found in a lot of other events that we've been running recently is that, the participation numbers are reasonable on here. They're pretty good on YouTube, but we get a lot of views of video content afterwards. So we will check with you afterwards that you're happy for us to make the talks available. We'll send them to people tomorrow or the day after we've done a little bit of editing, which Leon will do. We'll send you a link. If you want to share slides, I can send them on to people afterwards. Minimum, I will send, if you're happy, your email addresses so people can reach out directly to you and get those conversations going. But yeah, we make them available on the Yuki YouTube channel afterwards, and we get some reasonable numbers for the video content. So in the end, this will be seen by a good couple of hundred people. So that's where we're at. Are there any questions? We've lost Tim again. Yeah.
Just the running order, Sam. I guess when we're coming in.
Yeah. So I'll do a little welcome, and then it's to Tim to set the scene on the games industry. Then you, David. Then Jamie and Michael from Brand Culture, and then Trevor. You're I'll say the big finale. I'm not bigging you up too much. I'm just saying you're the last speaker.
I don't know. I got some videos, so it might be great.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it will be great, but I don't want to put added pressure on you. No, this is not.
No pressure.
That's cheating, surely.
I can hear you now, guys. Now something went horribly wrong there.
Ah, yeah.
Everything just froze on me.
Yeah.
Right. Can you what?
There we go. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. A brand new world. Got it.
Okay, cool. Now I just need to make sure.
That Disney song you're gonna surge into.
Okay. Can I leave that there, Sam? Is that right?
I'm doing an intro first, so
okay. All right.
So no, stop sharing your screen if that's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a little bit of Sam time at the start of an event. You know that. It's going to work. Don't worry. If it worked then, it will work in a couple of minutes. we're going to unveil. It's not nothing dramatic. Talking about video, Leon has made a little intro video for us on Yuki membership benefits. We've never used it before. We're going to run it today, aren't we, Leon?
Video that
I can't hear you, Leon.
together.
Yeah. We're always trying little things. We've not done these little videos to talk about Yuki before, so we'll try it. We do know it's not the sexiest video. There's not a whole load of animations in it, so bear with us. This is very much stage one, and we'll update it and show it to you at a later stage as well. Right, good. That works. You're all here nice and early. This is so good. Normally we're scrabbling around, wondering where our key second speaker is. You know, we start and we go blindly into it, where you all disappear off the screen, and we've no idea if our second speaker is going to be there.
Just craving to get to events at the moment, Sam. It's just nice to meet people at the moment. I'm hiding in my little box for the last year. So
Yeah.
this is me out.
When are you going to get out then, do you reckon?
Oh, well, we'll see. I think for us, we're not looking past to kind of anything past summer at the moment at Barclays. So we'll see. High hopes for the end of the year, though.
Maybe the Yuki AGM.
There we go.
Hey, that might be it. That's September. Fancy a bit of that.
1 fight and a half.
Well, it's funny because I was doing a little talk the other day. We've got this new data product. So I was talking to a whole load of insight and data people who ordinarily they're not the kind of people that will come to a UK AGM. And I said, yeah, we might be doing our AGM. I'm looking at some outdoor venues at the moment. And I didn't expect much feedback, and they're all a bit like, oh, we're definitely coming. I'd be like, hang on a minute, I'm hoping the numbers will be low so it's easier to manage. I don't want lots of people to come to this. You know, we typically get, I don't know, 150, something like that to the actual AGM. I don't want more than that.
I can't wait.
September outdoors though. What do you reckon?
I'm down. I mean, I haven't particularly missed my 300-mile commute to London every week, but you know, it's absence makes the heart grow fonder, Sam. So we'll see.
Are you saying you like me more today than you have ever done?
Well,
Is that what you're
you know.
saying? Yeah. I got dressed for this. I put a shirt on. I've still got my shorts on underneath. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, me too. I've still got my jogging bottoms underneath.
Yes. Yes.
So you've been out for a run today, Jamie?
No, I haven't.
Is that a company policy, Michael? Everyone has to go running every day.
No, we do try and encourage people to go out and exercise, but I think it sort of filters from the top. So unless people see me and Scott doing it, they don't all do it. But we certainly like people to get out and about if they can.
We've been doing that special effects stride quest that they're doing for a couple of months, where you have to go out and do as much walking as possible. It's been lovely this week, but today's a bit grim. It's the rain is putting a damper on it, but man, you need
That's
to
when they
get
send
out.
you a bit of the story, don't they? They send you a story, and then when you get to a landmark, a certain number of steps, a number of miles down, you get the next piece of the story.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
Oh dear. Are you doing it personally, or is like a Barclays group of you doing it?
Well, both. So I'm doing it, but we've got a good group at Barclays. Again, any excuse to get out at the moment. So,
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, we're doing it, but I don't want people to know where I live, so I don't want anyone to see my Strava maps. I don't want people turning up at my palatial estate in the countryside. That's not what I want.
Knocking on the brass gates.
Oh, yeah. I have to send Jeeves down to whisk them away.
You guys are gonna have to turn everyone's camera off now and stuff, because we should start letting people in, right?
Yes, let's let people in, Leon. Thank you very much.
Did you say we should turn our cameras off?
Yeah, so I will kind of like prompt you to turn yours back on. When Sam mentions your name, I will prompt it.
Okay.
Mm.
Hello there, and welcome to one and all to this event today. And we're just going to wait 1 or 2 minutes just for the last couple of people to join us for this Ukie event on video game opportunities, connecting with brands and the like. We've got some really interesting speakers lined up for today. But thank you for taking time out of your schedules to join us on this Tuesday afternoon. We've probably all been to a lot of these virtual events over the last year. We had a little hitch today. You might have seen a little last minute change of links. Apologies for that. Just one of those things that happens, I guess. Right, I'm going to start putting a couple of slides on just to welcome you and show you the agenda. Wonderful. So as I said, thank you for joining us today. Let me just minimize that thumbnail. There we go. For this event on video games, engagement opportunities for brands. One of a series of 2 events that we're running connecting brands to the video game industry. The second one being next week, same time, same place, Tuesday, the 4th of May at 4:30. If you go to the Ukie website, ukie.org.uk, there is a link there so that you can sign up for that event. It's focused on the esports sector, so how esports and video game and brands can engage together. So a nice opportunity to get a different perspective from different speakers there. Our running order for today, following my little introduction, I'm Sam from Ukie. We'll run a little video for you in a second just to tell a little bit about Ukie. But this is our lineup of speakers, some excellent people from across the games industry with real varied backgrounds and experience so that we can give you a broad perspective on the opportunities here for brands to engage with the games industry. I'm not going to talk too much about our experience and what we've seen of that in the last year. I'll leave that to the speakers. There's an option for you to ask questions of any of our speakers. There's the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. If you just click on that and type your question in, the speakers will either answer them at the end of their presentations, or they'll answer them in text form, or I'll ask them at the end of their individual talk. So do use that Q&A section, ask away. Any comments will be welcome. Leon, can you run the Ukie video, please, just to welcome people and tell them a little bit about who Ukie are?
Hi there, we're Ukie, the trade body for the UK video games industry. It's our mission to make the UK the best place to make, sell and play games. We're a member-owned organisation, and by that we mean that our members pay an annual subscription fee to be within our membership pool. But we're also a not-for-profit, which means all of the money we earn through these subscriptions goes back into products and services that support our members. Ukie now has over 500 members that range from the biggest platform holders, AAA publishers and developers such as PlayStation, Microsoft, EA, right down to one-person studios making their first video game. Our members are split up into 3 separate categories. First, we've got the full members. These are developers and publishers, so those businesses making and selling video games. Then we have our partner members. These are service companies such as legal firms, marketing, recruitment, that all specialise in supporting video games businesses. Finally, we have our academic members. These are universities and colleges, with the goal here being to bridge the gap between education and industry. Our members equate for around 90% of the revenue earned in the UK for the video games industry, which is important when we're talking to government or we're trying to lobby them, as they know that we're speaking with a collective voice. So, how do we support the UK video games industry? Yuki acts as the industry voice, speaking and working with the government to ensure the games industry is heard and supported. We run a number of skills and education initiatives that provide support in developing and fostering the next generation of the UK video games industry. Yuki works closely with national press to champion the games industry through promoting positive stories and ensuring the industry has a consumer-facing voice. We conduct and commission important research projects like the Industry Valuation Report, the Regional Economic Impact Report and the Industry Diversity Census. Yuki has also created Wikipedia, a shared open industry resource collating facts, stats and other useful information. Yuki runs and supports a number of free events throughout the year, sourcing diverse speakers from across the industry to deliver insightful talks. Yuki is also open and available to anyone looking to learn more about the games industry. Let's take a look at some of the ways that we support our members. Yuki facilitates thousands of introductions and connections each year, whether that's direct one-to-one introductions or through networking at one of our many events. Yuki has a comprehensive international trade program that helps our members to reach international markets. This includes key events such as Gamescom, GDC and China Joy. We also work with the Department of International Trade to provide grants to games businesses looking to attend these shows. Our partner member network means that our full members are able to access and receive commercial discounts for a variety of different products and services. Yuki members have access to the Yuki office in central London free as part of their membership. This includes hot desking, booking meeting rooms and accessing our streaming studio. Members can also take advantage of our free IP service. This is a tailored service to help identify and report IP infringement across several different platforms. Yuki runs a number of member groups covering policy, esports, mixed reality and more. These groups give members the chance to discuss any key issues they are facing and work together to find industry-wide solutions. Thanks for listening to this quick introduction to Yuki and the benefits that membership has to offer. If you'd like a more comprehensive chat about our work and membership, then please do get in touch. We'd be more than happy to help.
Right, thank you for Leon for putting that on for us, just our little Yuki taster of what we're up to. Now we get into the main agenda today, our fascinating speakers, and I'd like to welcome Tim Woodley from Hello Games to join us as our first speaker today. Tim, I've been playing an awful lot of No Man's Sky in the last year. It's an amazing game. I know you're not here to talk about that today, but I just wanted to say I love it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we've got a really small team at Hello Games, and I think No Man's Sky, for those of you who don't know, is our main game, and it's an infinite procedurally generated universe. And it's made by about 15 devs. So yeah, it's quite an astounding achievement when you look at it from the inside, let alone the outside.
Yeah, it's amazing, 15. Anyway, you're not here to talk about that game. You're here to talk about the current state of the games industry and the latest trends, actually. So I'm going to hand over to you. I'll disappear off the screen and leave you to it if you want to share your screen and take it away.
Sure. Let me just, for hopefully one of the last times doing these sorts of things virtually. And once again, just a few more technical buttons. Okay.
You're all good. Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, as Sam was saying, I work for Hello Games. I'm the head of publishing there. I've been in the industry just over 20 years. So I started in a large video games publisher that you might have heard of called Activision. And after that, moved to an indie publisher, 505 Games. And most recently, in the last couple of years, I've been incumbent at Hello Games, my first time on the dev side. So got quite a wide spread of knowledge and expertise in the video game space. And over the 20 years that I've been in the business, obviously seen video games grow from, albeit still quite a large industry, to what it is today, which is pretty much a behemoth. And that's the thing that we're here to celebrate and to investigate today, is this brand new world. And I suppose at the very top, it's a bit of a misnomer to call it a new world, because gaming has always been a fairly major part of the menu of things that brands can dig into when addressing certain audiences. But hopefully through the course of this deck and also the discussions afterwards, we'll be able to sort of just reset our brains a little bit. It's just how big games have become in the brand arsenal. So I thought I'd just start the usual way of comparing us to our nearest and dearest competitors of time, money, eyeballs, etc. And when it comes to branding, obviously sport has always led the way. Apologies for any non-Guna fans on the call, but yeah. Sport has always been a huge outlet for brands, and that's well established over many decades now. Music obviously has always been one that brands have been able to tap into, and you know, in various different ways over the generations, brands have found outlets through celebrity endorsement, through events, and the like. And also for theatrical and home entertainment, it's always an interesting game to play whenever you're watching a movie, to see just how many brands appear in those movies, and there are even trackers these days to rate those movies by the number of brands that appear in those movies, and what the value is to those brand owners. And television is no stranger to brand either, with lots of the modern day series featuring brands, as you can see here. But gaming, as I've said, is really hot on the heels and fast positioning itself to overtake many of those industries. The gaming industry in 2020 was valued at $159 billion, which is more than music, TV, and film combined, as I think is well heralded now, and as such provides a very big platform for brands to make their presence felt in the world. And you know, it's starting to be picked up now by many different media outlets, that actually, insofar as Gen Z gamers are concerned, we're about, as an industry, the games industry is about to shake up those larger media and entertainment industries for good. And this is really why this is a study from Digital Media Trends most recently, and it shows that Generation Z and Millennials, to a lesser extent Gen X as well, are preferring to play video games above almost any other pastime, including listening to music, browsing the internet, and watching TV shows or movies at home. And most recently, The Guardian's Sean Monahan quoted that if music was the most important form of youth culture in the 20th century, video games seem slated to be the most important in the 21st, for reasons that will become apparent. Gen Z is all well and good, and those younger generations, and I think they're always associated with gaming. But what I wanted to try and do today, and as part of the research into this presentation, was to really reset my brain about what the gaming audience actually is. And you know, barely a day goes by where a stat doesn't pass my eyes to say that, you know, gaming is no longer about the male 1634 or the young teenage boy, and you have to really sort of cast your mind back to when games first entered the public psyche, and I was enjoying looking back at exactly when the first home consoles entered our lives. And the first Pong machine entered the first family home in the mid 70s, and that really just makes you think that most parents today grew up with a games console in their home, and are now nudging 50 years old. So very much when we talk about there being a generational shift in the video game audience, this really sort of brings it home to you that most parents, and indeed some grandparents now, grew up with a video games console in their home. And this family here, the Nintendo Entertainment System family, those kids now are probably 40 years old. The first mass market gaming boom, the NES, released in 1983, and those kids are probably parents themselves, and growing up with the latest consoles firmly established in their family lives. And most recently, some studies that Yuki have been able to access have seen that the demographic shift just continues, at huge pace. The 55 to 64 demographic has grown 32% since 2018, driven mainly by the mobile gamers. COVID, of course, has had an impact, as people have looked for solace in their lockdown situations, but also that generational shift. We see 24% of grandparents and parents noting gaming as family time. Again, dispelling the long-held myth, really, that gaming is a solitary experience. In fact, quite the reverse. COVID has shown that gaming can be a real connective tissue in society, and help provide people with solace, sense of community, and friendship. And 50% of the people who play games on most days are female and 50% male. Again, really redressing that balance across, gender misconceptions and age misconceptions. So in terms of the size of the business, the UK games industry, as researched by Yuki, was worth £7 billion in 2020, which was a record for the UK games industry, off that total of $159 billion globally. And this is how it breaks down in terms of games software. The rise of digital and the rise of mobile in particular has, in the last 5 to 10 years, has been a major driver of that growth to get to that magic 7 billion number and break through that glass ceiling. And then console hardware as well is a major part of the mix. And hardware I see as important because it shows an investment in the future of a growing hobby for a large number of people. People who go out and spend, £500, £1,000 on console or PC games hardware are investing in a future where they fully intend to continue that. That hobby as in future years. So while you can attribute some of this to the COVID impact of 2020, most commentators are saying that when COVID is behind us, the numbers that we've seen in 2020 will stabilize, but they'll stabilize at a higher base than we saw previously. And then one of the unheralded, I suppose, aspects of the games industry is just the culture that and the ecosystem that has grown up around it. And no different, I suppose, from music, sport, or film and TV, as we've seen, but different insofar as we're only really just tapping into these ancillary revenues and these ancillary ecosystems. So that growth that we've seen in recent years of the games industry really hasn't hit its stride yet in some of these more ancillary areas. But when we talk about branding, it isn't just about flying the flag for how big the industry is from a revenue point of view. It is also about the eyeballs and how engaged those eyeballs are. And in that regard, we have a bit of a secret weapon in the games industry. And you know, video on demand and video streaming has been a major part of, you know, branding as a whole and culture as a whole. Twitch is our secret weapon. And to illustrate this, you know, most people are aware of YouTube and the power of YouTube and the power of YouTube streaming. But it is also interesting to show just how big Twitch is relative to YouTube. When you look at hours streamed, average concurrent viewers, in fact, across almost every metric, we've got this absolute powerhouse of broadcast media that on a daily basis is commanding millions and millions of eyeballs across hundreds of thousands of streams and channels. And I thought this quote was quite interesting and telling, you know, especially when comparing us to, you know, the standard ways that brands access their audiences, and the streaming channels in general, YouTube and Twitch and others, illustrate that the unique way in which gaming's biggest figures choose to interact with their audiences. While movie stars and music A-listers generally shy away from the public, gamers instead reach out to them and interact with everyday people. And this is really speaking to, I suppose, the new celebrity, the influencer, the streamer, is much more accessible, much more interactive, and much more personable to the brand's audience than, you know, any celebrity endorsement ever could be. And just to illustrate the point, really, I suppose, of how brands are starting to recognize the power of the streamers. This was just a random streamer that I picked when I was doing the research for this presentation, and was just, you know, on any given day, on any given channel, you can see 6 or 7 brands that are sponsoring and engaging with audiences for these specific channels. And just to change gear a little bit, you know, the opportunities for branding within video games, and without taking some of the fire away from some of the presentations that are coming up after me, just a few examples of how brands are already engaging with the gaming audiences. There's a lot of work being done, and this is probably the most traditional way, and it has been going on for, you know, many years now, if not decades. Retail opportunities, tie-ins with consumer products, getting increasingly more adventurous. You know, it wasn't that long ago when you wouldn't even consider them a brand playing around with its iconic logo, like Mr. Pringle here in his gaming headset. And then in-game branding, again, tapping into the way that brands can really have an interactive relationship with their audience. This is the Louis Vuitton League of Legends crossover that was multifaceted, in-game items and outfits, but also spilled over into the consumer products sector as well. And then live events, I suppose, you know, live events, if anyone hasn't been paying attention to esports over the last couple of years, live events have just become an amazing powerhouse for the games industry, a third leg to the stool of, you know, in-game broadcast, but also live events that command, you know, hundreds of thousands of live attendees, but many more millions of viewers around the world. And some of the more progressive brands have already woken up to this and are well ensconced in this area. And that's now in very recent times, in the last 12 months even, is now starting to appear as live events actually in game and commanding significant audiences for one-off appearances from music stars and DJs and the like. And this particular event in Fortnite commanded 14 million, an audience of about 14 million, which was the first of its kind, but not the last, I'm sure. And then consumer products as well. You know, people are having fun with our brands, both retro and modern, and being able to create products that again give further opportunity for audiences to interact with the brands that they know and love. So in summary, just leave you with 2 quotes really, and these are quotes that were taken from articles that have run in the last couple of months. And these kind of quotes, these kind of hyperboles are not difficult to believe, and are just becoming more and more frequent as the world wakes up to the power of games, as we seek to kind of dispel some of the preconceptions of what games are. They are a major force in the world. They're a force for good in a lot of ways, as I've mentioned, the social connectivity, the charitable work that a lot of gaming developers and publishers do, and you know, has some real positive associations as gamers are growing up, and the world of gaming continues to mature, and offer more opportunities for brands to engage. So with that, I'll leave it to the rest of my my panelists to pick up the baton. Thank you for your time.
A virtual round of applause, Tim. Thank you. It's always difficult in these to get that feedback, but I'd be clapping if I was there in that same room as you. Thank you very much for that summary. Really, I mean, very brilliant introduction, lovely summary of all the different components, particularly like the idea about the live events. I mean, we're just scratching the surface of that, aren't we? Where's it going to end, all of this integration of live events? Do you have a sense for how far can it go?
Well, it's an interesting one. Every time you think we've reached some sort of zenith of innovation in the games industry, we seem to find another untapped potential. I mean, as I said, I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I would never have envisaged, back in the days of when a game is done, it's on a disc, it's in a games console, and we're now very much in that live service realm. So, you know, games not only have a longer shelf life than they ever have before, but we can do things on the fly, in the moment, that no other medium can, and that's invaluable to any brand owner.
Absolutely. There was a question in the Q&A about how do charities work with games companies to raise brand awareness. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, there's a lot of charities associated with games now. I'm delighted to say. I mean, some games industry ones themselves, things like Special Effect and Games Age. You know about those?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an ambassador for Special Effect, and you know, certainly over the last 12 months, you know, despite all other charitable avenues or fundraising avenues, should I say, kind of largely being closed off to these charities, the games industry has been able to not only rally but also excel in finding new ways of fundraising, and again, harnessing the power of our sort of streaming cousins to be able to reach those audiences when you know, those kind of physical charitable events just couldn't happen. And I would encourage anyone to visit Special Effect, but also Games Aid and any of the other gaming charities, just to see what they were up against this time last year when you know, their whole fundraising calendar was decimated, but not, I think it was like 2 weeks later, the gaming industry had rallied round and you know, replaced what they had lost with something new and something, you know, something more innovative, that, you know, won't ever replace physical events, but can be you know, can be additive to the charitable event, you know, charitable fundraising initiatives.
Yeah, and long may that continue. It'll be interesting to see how that develops over the next couple of years. And we do return to physical events. Can we still harness that digital opportunity, the virtual opportunity?
Indeed.
Now, Tim, that was amazing. Thank you very much for that summary. And as Tim disappears off, I'm going to welcome David Gowans from Barclays to come and join me on this virtual stage, as someone called it
Hi,
earlier.
Sam.
Event I was
Afternoon.
at. David, how you doing? You all right?
I'm well, lovely. Thanks for having me here.
Well, you're an upgrade. When we first announced this, we had one of your colleagues, JP, Jonathan Patterson, doing this, but amazing upgrade to get you here. I'm delighted to have you here. Not I don't like JP, but you're the man. You know this stuff.
Well, I don't know about upgrade, but I'll try my best. It's a very big shoes to fill with JP.
I'm going to step aside and hand over to you then. Thank you very much, David.
Thanks, Sam. So just to introduce myself, so I'm David Gowans. I lead the games and esports activity for Barclays across our group, so across our global bank, where we look at strategy and how we support the games and esports industries. So obviously Barclays is a non-endemic brand in some ways when it comes to the games industry, though we've got a long history of supporting people in the creative space and creative industries going back decades, particularly in the UK. We also have a big tradition in sport and in engagement with our customers. And something that's always really been a passion point for Barclays and for me is just seeing how the industry operates to its own drumbeat and how it has been able to grow, from Tim's presentation over the last 40, 50 years. It's a far cry from back when I was a kid playing with my Spectrum and Amiga, I'm going to date myself there, to where the industry is now. But I think something you can absolutely take from the games industry is it is incredibly special. It's what happens when you get brilliant, creative people that have a vision with a community and the same people that have deep technical knowledge. And what's actually happened over, the growth of the industry is there has been an incredible amount of innovation that also comes from the sector. And I would advise any brand, any business that's operating full stop to be aware of what is happening in the games industry. It's an industry that not only, has led forward with innovation that's used in other areas of business, so things like, AI, VR, digital payments, micro payment subscription services, that it's really grown, and the audience is incredibly connected to this industry, to a point where they are very open to adopting new techniques and new innovations that the industry brings. So it's incredibly positive to see the innovation and growth within the sector. And as Tim mentioned as well, and something that we see from all of the data that Yuki provides, an incredible shorthand that I use all of the time when I'm speaking to senior leaders within industries about why the games industry is important, is it speaks for itself. It is bigger than games, film, and music combined. It accounts for 52% of spend. It has a deeply engaged audience, and something that we've been working really hard to understand from an entrepreneur who's a single person company who's looking to get into the game space, and where we can support them through our Eagle Lab network and our business building programs, up to medium range companies that we support through banking and finance services, up to huge international corporate organizations that you all heard of that have their own demands when it comes to IPOs, M&As, finance, international payment services. But the unique thing about the industry is all of those different companies up to all scales are all operating in a pool together. And it's great to see the friendly competition and cooperation between the industry. It's one of the few sectors where the approach of a rising tide raises all ships really does meet with how the industry operates. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be part of it and to continue to work with the industry to help solve its problems in the role that we can play as Barclays. But I think what might be a little bit more interesting to you as well, and the purpose of this topic is, as a non-endemic brand in the areas that we do work with the games industry, the value that we get from the sector. So, being a member of Yuki and supporting the organizations that are championed throughout the games industry, rightly so, that focus on diversity, representation, and moving forward in how the industry operates. It's been incredible to work with. I can see a couple of those organizations in the audience today, and we continue to work with them in the support and the work that they do. And as mentioned, the charities that are out there as well, we've been really lucky to work with those organizations and continuing to work with those organizations to support in any way we can. But what we found also in working with the industry and through the activity that Barclays have traditionally done in the sporting field, particularly with esports, and transitioning some of our traditional sports sponsorships, like with the Premier League and with football and with other global sports, looking at how we can also support within the esports arena. Obviously, we have the Barclaycard Arena in Hamburg, the Barclays Center in New York that have housed large esports finals. But we've also been supporting and learning as we go from grassroots activities. So last year we sponsored the UKLC, which is the League of Legends UK tournament, the first tournament then to be broadcast on the BBC. We are also sponsoring the National Students Esports League, and we've done a number of sponsorships to really help us understand how the industry and how the esports sector are continuing to grow. And it's been incredible for us. Not only have we seen engagement to a new type of audience, that two-way communication that happens, as Tim mentioned, through Twitch and through streaming platforms, but it's also given us a really positive insight into how the leagues are working and how they're leading the way with some new ways of thinking around sport and engagement. This year hasn't been normal, and it was really heartening to see in times where physical sport could not continue, those sports turning to virtual versions and games on Twitch to replicate the physical sport environment. Obviously, with the F1 and the virtual racing series that was happening, and also in the US with Fox broadcasting with NASCAR within the game in that environment. And with us, what we're continuing to do, and with our sponsorship with the National Students Esports League, an incredibly tough year for students, is really to understand how those feeder systems and networks work for the next wave of talent. But also the games industry, through the last year, it continues to show phenomenal growth. Obviously, Yuki have shared their data. We ourselves can see the data down to the penny of kind of that runs through our network for games, and it's incredible. Games as an industry was the highest growing industry in our spend when we analysed our complete spend through everything that runs through the Barclays network. It was over 10% higher than the second place, which was streaming services like Netflix or Disney Plus or Amazon Prime. And what we've seen that's really interesting is, because people have now invested in hardware, the drop-offs that you would sometimes see in other services when lockdown has been reduced, we are not seeing that in games. We're seeing sustained activity across the board through engagement through all channels, and incredibly diverse as well through the metrics that we can track. So for us, it's been an incredible audience, and we're continuing our journey to continue to learn all of the best that the industry has. It's incredibly insightful to be able to work across the industry and see where the boundaries are being pushed, where the activity is, how engaged the audience is within the games industry, and how gamers really, really care about the experience that they have through games, whether it's the experience created by games makers in a single player game, or connecting with their friends online or through games as platforms that are now growing. It's unique to see the level of engagement that we do see as Barclays within this industry. And then I think to kind of summarize for us, I'm always happy. So I'm really happy to share or connect with anyone who wants to find out a little bit more about our journey, or maybe how we can support in any area at all. We're very visible, so what I'll do is I'll put my details there, but you can contact me at games@bartleys.com if you want to email, or just find me on Twitter at dfgowans, or look at our site at games.bartleys or at Bartleys Games on Twitter. Really happy to further any conversations. So Sam, I think that's me. Happy for any questions if there's any, or I can pick up with people after the session. So thank you.
No, it's a terrific summary. Thank you, DG, for that. There's been a couple of, I want to pick up on a couple of things you said, if that's all right. So a question from our audience from Michael. Says it works with brands in the creative space, and how do you advise them to get into the world of gaming and esports? I mean, let's look at it. What are the first steps that Barclays took when you identified that games was an area that you wanted to have a look at? What were the sort of the first steps? What's the page one stuff that you did?
So for us, and Sam, you didn't prompt me on this one, so it was connecting with the community. Yuki has been an incredibly important part of that, but really to understand if there's a place for Barclays where we can support. We aren't particularly about slapping our name on as a kind of a sponsorship or activity. We really want to learn and to work as a partner. Same goes for, you know, the sponsorships that you'll be familiar with. So the Premier League, we are their finance and banking partner of that. In fact, we're sponsoring the E-Premier League right now. And for us, it's really understanding, can we help solve problems and learn? So what we found really important is to start with, we started with the UKLC was one of our very first sponsorships, but really at a level where we can understand and start our learning journey. We've met fantastic partners. You really need to become part of the community and the conversation. And I think the great thing about the games industry is the community is incredibly welcoming to people who can help them and, you know, and to kind of learn. And what we're doing, you know, we're a few years in now, and we're really continuing to learn as much as we possibly can. And if there's an opportunity where we can support or where we can sponsor activity, we will try that. But, you know, we really want it to be a meaningful partnership and a two-way conversation between organizations and ourselves in what we do forward. So it's get involved with sessions like this, get involved, you know, Sam, you'll always point us, you know, and point anyone in the right direction for people to talk to, and have those conversations with an open mind, not with what you're looking to kind of achieve maybe as first. I mean, there are lots of partners who can help you build that vision, but just to really understand how the sector works, how it's put together, and then, you know, opportunities will naturally crop up because there's just so much incredible activity in the space.
You said early on it's a deeply engaged audience. Hopefully we'll be covering that off in the next talk so we can hear about how that engagement works. But I think you're absolutely right there. And I've been, there seems to have been a lot of love for Yuki here this evening, which I hadn't anticipated, but it's great to hear, thank you. But it's not about us. What I really like about the way that you've approached the market is that you've not come in trying to sell your products and services, although there is a benefit to you if the engagement works. Your approach has always been, let's try and give the support that's required, and then you get your payback long term, which I think is a really interesting approach. You know, brands that come in and exploit it and make short-term gains are going to struggle, I think. It's that long-term engagement that's really going to pay dividends. Is that safe to say, do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, look, the industry is, you know, it's incredible, but it also will challenge you at every step of the way, and you know it will root that activity out. And I'm glad that we've started at the level where this was, you know, has been a journey for us to deepen our relationship. We've always banked and supported companies within the space, but really to be incredibly proactive, we've got much more value out of that than we would ever have thought of. But it's been a very organic process, and allowed to be that. In fact, where opportunities arise. So we've been devastated there has not been over the last year a lot of the events and knowledge sharing that would happen generally through the industry, through the activity that happens throughout the year. So being part of events like this, in fact, we sponsored the UK industry Slack channel for the last year, just to help. We've been very hands off with that activity, because we just wanted to support the engagement and activity that wouldn't be able to happen moving forward. But for us, it's about learning and trying to build a strong relationship with the industry, where we can support it by the products and services that we offer, and then to our customer base as well, looking to see, is there a way that we can support that? We can see in the data that our customers are more engaged than ever in spending and engaging within games. Is
wonderful.
And how do we then move that forward, which we're still working on.
That's amazing. Thank you, David, for your talk today. I'm delighted to announce that Matthew from David's team is going to be talking at our esports and brands event next week. He's leading all of the esport engagement around universities and the like. So that'll be a detailed talk next week, I think, from Matthew. We'll look forward to. But thank you, David.
Great. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Moving on then, a double header now. We have Michael and Jamie from Brand Culture. We're going to share a whole range of experiences, actually. Welcome.
Hi, Sam. How you doing?
Nice.
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. Delighted to have you two here today. I'm going to hand straight over to you, so we try and keep on track. Share your slides and take it away.
Thank you very much. Hopefully everyone can see that.
That looks great.
So thanks very much for inviting us along today to talk about brands and gaming. Some really interesting stuff from Tim and David there. And there's going to be a lot of talk around engagement and the size of audience as well that's consistent with what they've said. So just to introduce myself, my name's Michael Mann. I'm the co-founder and creative director of Brand Culture. And joining me in the cockpit today is Jamie Saunter, who's our partnerships and business development director. Just very briefly, a little bit about Brand Culture. We're an award-winning full-service brand partnerships agency, and we specialize in the entertainment and lifestyle space. So for about 20 years, we've been helping entertainment companies and lifestyle companies launch their film, TV, gaming properties through brand partnerships, and consistently at the same time helping brands maximize the opportunities that present themselves in the entertainment space. So if you're a brand joining us today, then no doubt it's probably because you'll have noticed how the gaming audience has grown astronomically. And it's not just the Gen Z younger demographic that is driving this growth. It's only set to continue. And as an agency, for many years, we've been banging the drum on behalf of publishers that gaming is not niche. And thankfully today, lots of non-endemic brands are recognizing the importance of this huge audience. And indeed, just in the last couple of weeks, the likes of KitKat in the UK and P&G's Tampax in the US are aligning with esports for that very reason. Because gaming really does have this sort of huge digital reach, and with that, a hyper engaged digital community and communities who are interacting with and around the most sit forward of entertainment. And all the hoo-ha around the European Super League just this last week points towards this shift to gaming in terms of audiences, with Real Madrid's president talking about how football needs to be saved, because basically younger fans, younger viewers are turning their backs on rather boring football, and they're embracing digital communities. So you can only hazard a guess as to the types of gaming platforms that he's actually referring to there. So for us as an agency, it's not really a question of should brands get involved. It's more about how can brands get involved. And what we'd like to share today is and illustrate is that whatever brand category you're in, whatever marketing or business or CSR objective you have, whatever audience you're trying to reach, There really are a whole host of creative marketing partnership opportunities out there with very willing and accessible gaming companies. So along with gaming demographics, we think it's really important that you consider the motivations and the attitudinal aspects of gaming. Now, we all game to have fun and to relax, but along with that, it's also about building genuine, authentic, and long-lasting relationships with people online. And we've included there a Virgin Media ad example where they actually sort of bring that to life in terms of the online relationship. And it's also about building, it's also about this wider digital community as well, which really does provide somewhat of a social lifeline in a pandemic or outside of a pandemic. It's a place where we can connect with others, including gaming influencers who are increasingly seen as today's movie stars and top sports talent. And these digital communities are growing at the expense of traditional social media platforms. And they've been coined as digital campfires, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And these campfires are particularly appealing to the Gen Z and youth audience. And in the past year, we've seen how these digital communities have blown up and really caught light. And they're even shaping our experiences. They're shaping wider culture, blurring music and gaming, for example, with Travis Scott and Lil Nas concerts on Fortnite and Roblox. Jamie.
Now, there are loads of creative ways that brands and the gaming industry are collaborating, often through value-in-kind partnerships. Tim touched on a few examples earlier, and on screen here you can see a few more that show different kind of entry points for brands, as well as some of the traditional activations and consumer-based rewards that brands can often unlock through their partnerships with games companies. And it's also important to just remember that there is a world beyond the likes of Xbox, PlayStation, and the AAA games. In the UK, we've a wealth of world-beating companies developing and publishing awesome games, content, and platforms. We've spoken a little bit about esports, and that's received lots of coverage recently, with non-endemic brands like KitKat getting involved with sponsorship of streams and events. And of course, David just spoke about some of the things that Barclays are doing in esports, another obviously non-endemic brand. It's a whole subject in its own right, and obviously we don't have time to focus on it today. So do tune into Yuki's specific webinar on it next week. Moving on, we've got 3 snapshot case studies to share with you, and just to kind of rationalize why we've specifically chosen these. We wanted to illustrate the range of games developers, publishers and platforms that brands can partner with, the different types of brands that can get involved, and the different audiences being reached, from kids right through to adults. So our first example, with Pringles and Raw Fury's West of Dead, illustrates how you can blur digital and physical boundaries to deliver genuine mass market impact, as well as surprise and delight gamers and the wider community. So running away from flesh-eating zombies is a pretty common motif in video games. And drawing on this, Pringles and Raw Fury created a new character called Zombie Frank. And the campaign idea was to have Frank break out of his digital world into our own, with the joke being that it's the tube of Pringles that he wants to eat rather than us. And it was activated in a really, really cool way. Gaming influencer Leviathan popped a can of Pringles on Twitch, and followers saw Frank burst out of the game into her room. There were TV spots showing Frank breaking out of the TV to try and get his hands on a gamer's Pringles. He also took over the Twitter accounts for Pringles and Raw Fury, and they created a series of films where Frank learned to be more social and human. And at the end of the campaign, Frank reappeared in the West of Dead game as a permanent character, providing players with hints and tips. And it was just a really, really great way for Pringles to promote the consumption occasion to a mass audience. Our next example from Kinder explores how you can bring a fun digital learning experience to kids through gameplay. Now, we all know that Kinder have been producing physical toys as gifts in their chocolate for many, many years. But this partnership with Gameloft saw them create a mobile app that brings their physical free toy characters to life through augmented reality in a closed and safe experience. The partnership also included an offshoot with the University of Oxford's Department of Education, who brought a level of edutainment to the gameplay and encouraged bonding between parents and children through games, interactive stories, activities, and more. And we just thought it was a really, really smart way for Kinder to evolve their traditional toy gifts, especially during a pandemic, when obviously parents were at home homeschooling kids who had lots of time on their hands during lockdown. This next example we've chosen between H&M and Animal Crossing illustrates how you can collaborate with a game and its engaged community to drive and develop your CSR agenda. So H&M have announced their ambition to improve sustainability and commit to closing fashion's waste loop. And they've also announced Game of Thrones star Maisie Williams as their global sustainability ambassador for 2021. She also happens to be an avid fan of Animal Crossing, which as the game invites players to visit an island, build homes, landscapes, and hang out. So H&M partnered with the game and created a digital Maisie avatar, and she set up her apartment on H&M's Loop Island. And this apartment has a recycling loops machine and a sustainability innovation lab. And the whole Animal Crossing community can go there to learn about sustainability and share their thoughts on a town hall message board. There was also a film featuring Maisie's avatar to launch the campaign. And we just thought, again, it was a really, really clever way for H&M to talk about the work that they're doing in the sustainability space and closing the consumer feedback loop about their work. So H&M is, as I said, it's a great example of a partnership outside of the more common promotional reward-based activities associated with gaming. It's about the power of social conversation and collaboration around the core gaming experience itself. And with brand authenticity and purpose high on marketing agendas, it's definitely worth asking what role your brand could play in this space, because there's a world of digital campfires and micro communities for brands to explore, or even to create yourself. So next we wanted to share some other digital campfires that are burning right now and highlight the sort of ways that brands could potentially get involved. So Games Workshop owns some of the coolest, most compelling IP in the world, including Warhammer, which has attracted one of the most dedicated and passionate fan bases of any gaming and publishing franchise. They've got several AAA games in the pipeline, one of which is Warhammer 40k Darktide, releasing early next year. And you can bet that any kind of brand partner who can engage these fans through a partnership in an authentic and meaningful way will absolutely reap the benefits of a campfire that's burning red hot. So if we take a broad Warhammer theme, 40,000, we think that this could present an opportunity for an airline partner to create a cool Warhammer experience, inviting fans to be the first to play Darktide, cruising at 40,000 feet in the air, in a specially designed, cool kind of themed cabin, complete with an Xbox Series X, 4K screens, and the opportunity for players to be rewarded with potentially 40,000 flying club points. It's obviously a sci-fi franchise as well, so you can imagine that airline also starting a campfire discussion around the future of travel and what that might look like in the context of kind of sustainability.
So the next one we've chosen is Borderlands, which is a multiplayer game, hugely successful. And one of the themes in it is about discovering alien technology of the future. And we think it's a great example of the type of game, the type of community that brands could explore with regards to CSR and advancing social good. Now, a team of international scientists actually approached the makers of Borderlands and wanted to enlist the help of the Borderlands gaming community to help decode DNA sequences that their computers couldn't actually crack. So they collaborated on Borderlands Science, which is a game within a game. And they invited players to solve these almost sort of Tetris-like DNA puzzles in return for in-game rewards and the feeling of doing well and contributing to an initiative in the scientific community. So it really fueled gamer appetite to problem solve. And in turn, it's helping advance breakthroughs in science, even in food and exercise. The initiative also enlisted the voice of Big Bang Theory's Dr. Mayim Bialik, who herself has huge social reach as well. So again, broadening the appeal of it, and her voice was used in the game, but also in a promotional video. So we can really imagine how a brand sort of wanting to get involved in something like this could help promote the initiative, could encourage gameplay, and offer rewards as well. The next one I want to share is Among Us. Now, hopefully lots of you will have heard of it or played it in recent times. It's got huge appeal and engagement from kids right through to 30-somethings and adults. And at the heart of the game, the reason why we've chose it, because it represents this idea of discovering the imposter on board spaceships or airships. And it's about collaboration. So you work with your crew and you talk to the crew members online and you try and discover who is the imposter. So we thought this could present a brand with a really interesting opportunity to have some fun with the game and with the audience, either becoming the imposter on board and inviting the crewmates to discover you, or indeed you could be the brand that collaborates with the crewmates to find out who the imposter is and throw them off the ship. You could also have a really interesting conversation around the concept of brand truth and what your brand truth is. You could engage the voting mechanics and also the side chats of the game to talk about your product or maybe your CSR initiatives in a really different way. So the last three examples that we shared were sort of opportunities where brands might be able to, develop campaigns around existing digital campfires. But you can also look to build and light your own. And just in terms of a little analogy, as with football, people go along to watch their heroes play football, these professionals. Many, many more watch live on TV at home. But let's not forget the many football players and fans who take part in amateur, sort of grassroots competitions and leagues week in, week out. And in the same way, in the gaming community, you have people who go along, you have gamers who go along to watch their heroes in the esports arenas. Many, many more are watching these events live on live stream. But let's not forget the huge numbers of amateur competitive gamers who are enjoying their own tournaments for small amounts of money and for the pleasure of doing it day in, day out. And we think this bit is really, really interesting because it's not about the size of the fires necessarily, but how brightly they're burning around these tournaments that we think is really, really exciting. So it's this world of hyper-engaged amateur gamers that Battlefy occupies. Now, they're leaders in building these competitive gaming platforms for brands. And they've got many, many years experience doing that for the AAA games companies themselves for their esports tournaments. And it's partly because of that they're really able to help brands develop activity that's authentic, building these audiences for brands. And it can be a lot cheaper than sponsoring an entire esports tournament as well. On screen, we've got a Red Bull North America example. Battle 5 actually partnered with Red Bull a couple of times, so it proves it's really, really successful. And Red Bull effectively offered daily events and daily tournaments for gamers to play. They ran on-pack promotions. There were digital activations around it. And it was really about engaging the community, building this community and rewarding them regularly and rewarding them for their loyalty. So we think it's a really interesting area for brands to explore, especially around that consumption occasion with gaming, but also looking at driving habit and frequency as well. That brings the end of our webinar. Thanks very much, guys.
Right, I'm back. They've let me back in. Thank you, Jamie and Michael. Excellent whistle-stop tour through a whole load of different opportunities there. I feel like you answered Michael's question familiar perfectly about the different opportunities for brands to get involved and what do they do. Can I turn this round very, very quickly? If you're actually, let's look at it in a totally different way. If you're a gaming company, a developer, a publisher, how can you approach brands? And what are the kind of things that the developers should be thinking about before they approach a brand?
Yeah, good question. Well, they could talk to us straight off the bat.
Apart from the obvious sales pitch, Michael.
Well, look, it really depends what the publisher wants to achieve, what the developer wants to achieve in terms of is it trying to raise awareness. In which case, who are you after? What's the audience that you're trying to reach? And then it's thinking about, well, what are the creative angles that they might sort of want to talk to the brand about? What are the authentic reasons that the brand might want to get involved in terms of their audience? And then what are you offering? Is it in-game placement? Is it sponsorship around a tournament? Is it promotional rewards, downloadable content that the brand can then offer onto its consumers?
And do brands normally take those calls, or is there a sort of a route to actually reach out to those brands? Let's say you wanted to reach brand A this afternoon. How does the developer go down? I guess through yourselves and through digital agencies, but are there any other routes?
Yeah, well, certainly I think that the rise in the number of non-endemic brands getting involved in gaming shows that at least marketeers are definitely open to these suggestions now. So it's the marketing teams, absolutely, I would say would be a good first port of call. And hopefully these days, with all the work that everyone's doing in this space, they'll be more open to having those conversations. You just can't ignore the opportunity now. And it isn't just about the promotional rewards, as we were sort of saying there. So it could be, looking at what brands are doing, seeing how, the storytelling, the narrative of what your game offers gamers, how that might fit with a brand's CSR initiatives or with its demographic.
Yeah, that's terrific. Terrific guidance. Thank you for that. I was quite interested. I like the H&M really deep integration that they've done. It was a fascinating case study. Sounds expensive. And in general, there's how long is the piece of string question coming up? You can sense. I'm just talking about sort of costs of integration, maybe compared to other things that in the past. How does working with a games company stack up for a brand?
Well, yes, it does depend. Certainly from a brand's point of view, which publisher you're going to. And as Jamie referred to, there is a whole world of developers and publishers outside of your AAA and your Xbox and PlayStation platforms. So look, it's not always about the money for those guys. They, the model of helping entertainment owners drive awareness of their new properties, their new releases, for them, it isn't just about revenue. It's about awareness. So there are these value in kind, contra deal opportunities out there. So it isn't just thinking as a brand, you're going to have to pay for a license. Now, yes, sometimes licenses occur certainly over a period of time if it's outside of a promotional window. But absolutely going in without a set way of negotiating the partnership, because you're never really going to know what that publisher or developer wants to achieve, what their metrics are, what ROI they need. And similarly, on the publisher side, let's not assume that brands are just going to be expecting to put their hands in their pocket and pay. They might be offering you, $1 million of above the line support because they're going to be promoting the campaign themed around your property.
Wonderful. That's terrific. Thank you. There's a couple more questions for you to have a look at in the Q&A, if that's okay, but I'll leave you to deal with those yourself. Thank you very much, Michael and Jamie. And now our final speaker, Trevor Williams from Hi-Rez, who's going to talk about brand, the business of IP integration, which is interesting. So the nuts and bolts of this, I think, Trevor. Thank you for joining us. You're in Seattle, I hear. I am. Thanks for having me today. It's been great. What's it like in Seattle at the moment? Gray, as per the usual. Oh, you're really catering for the British audience here, talking about the weather straight away. No, things are good. It's nice to be out in Seattle, but Hi-Rez is a global company. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia, but we have a pretty significant contingent of people out in the UK and Brighton. That office is not only developing and building games, but also heads up and runs all of our publishing and marketing. You've got the amazing Veronique Lallier running that for you. So we do. Big shout out to Vero. Right, that's enough of the loving. I'm going to hand over to you now, Trevor, so you can take us through your presentation. Thank you for joining us. Sounds great. 1 second. Screen sharing not working. I'm just making sure I have the right screen up. Here we go. Amazing. That's amazing. That's it. Great. So thanks so much for having me today. I'm going to touch a little bit more on kind of the value of branded integration inside of gaming. So we'll just start off here quickly. Quick history of myself. I've been loving the video game industry for many years. Found my first job at Nintendo many years ago, back in the 90s, but really kind of found my stride post college in Microsoft Xbox as well as Motiga, and now I've been with Hi-Rez Studios the last 4.5 years or so. Hi-Rez Studios, it has 6 locations at this point. We actually just announced Creative Unchained, which is the opportunity for anyone located in the UK or the US, regardless of your location, to potentially become part of our studio. We're kind of opening up the opportunity to work from anywhere in the video game industry, as we've noticed that during COVID over the last year, we've been able to continue publishing updates and work through brand new game launches, all from the comfort of our own homes. So why not continue that into the future and look for the best talent wherever they are? Just a quick synopsis of what we do. Right now, we're running 4 live service ops games. We are a live service ops company. What does that mean? It's a good question. We run games as a service games, free-to-play games, constantly updated games that continue on for years and years. So on this screen, you see Smite, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on in the presentation, but it's in its 9th year of life. Paladins is running on year 4, Realm Royale year 3, and Rogue Company is just finishing up its first year right now. So I wanted to kind of start by prefacing this conversation around Once Upon a Time in Smite. Like I mentioned, Smite's been around 9 years. We are in the 8th year of esports, the 8th year of monetized operation, and we're coming off the best year we've ever had. And we have a mantra at Hi-Rez of Smite's best days are still ahead of it. So the game launched in 2012. We actually showed 41% growth year over year between 2019 and 2020, and we're actually already beating 2020's revenue and user numbers in 2021 so far.
Smite's been played by more than 40 million players worldwide, and it's released on 5 platforms, 2 different PC stores, Epic and Steam, as well as Xbox One, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch. And we run one of the top esports in the world outside of the Riots, Activisions, and Dotas. We have a pretty vibrant and healthy community on Twitch and YouTube for Smite esports. But today the question becomes, how do we integrate brands and talk through opportunity to bring together collaboration? 2 of the collaborations that we've done in the past year really helped catapult Smite back into the eye of the public. And we did this with linear media IP integration, both with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Nickelodeon, Avatar: The Last Airbender, both with Nickelodeon. And it's really interesting what we've done over the last year. We don't necessarily think directly about ROI, but we really think about new user acquisition and how it will impact the player base for the coming years. So the IP integration we do spans all sorts of different opportunities. We like to license the music. We like to license, obviously, the characters. We build designs. And both of these integrations took more than 6 months internally and hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop. Not only did we develop the characters for in-game play and build a story arc around why they're integrating with our game in integrating into our storyline, but we also take the time to think through the art style and the way that would best showcase their brand. I'm going to show one of these videos here just to give you kind of a glimpse. We took Avatar and we actually built this trailer in-house, and this trailer was done so that we could showcase how and why Aang was coming to the aid of Smite. Now,
this world is in trouble.
We can't let this happen. They need our help.
now, the way we think about brand integration and a lot of the questions I'm seeing come up in the Q&A really revolve around, how do you think about interacting with a company? How do you think about merging brands together? Do we think through it from a moral perspective? Do we think through it through a brand integration perspective, looking for mutual synergies? Really, if we think back to Avatar and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we use a lot of analytics. So we look at Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and we try to understand what's happening with our users. So the users that play the game and the users that maybe watch other shows or interact with other IPs or content, we're looking for those synergies, and we're having those conversations so that we can spend the time to integrate with things that we think will be mutually beneficial for both parties. We really like to kind of up and amp up the authenticity of the integration. So not only are we looking for fans that are fans of both Smite and the linear IP we're working with, but also that we're doing justice to the IP. There's a lot of other fantastic companies in the UK, like the Warhammer crew at Games Workshop, that have integrated with a lot of other games and linear IPs in the world, and they've done some absolutely incredible activations. So we're not the only ones doing this, but we're really taking the time and the effort to really distill down and build out engaging content for people to consume. And a really interesting kind of proof or data touch point, when we integrated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles into Smite back in November, and then we updated the box art for Smite to include the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle characters, we actually saw 100% increase or uplift in our new user engagement, or sorry, new user acquisition. And we brought significantly more players in the door for those 3 months that we were integrating with Nickelodeon and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than we would have doing our own battle pass with our own IP. So not only do we think about this as an opportunity to drive meaningful revenue for both ourselves and our partners, we're also thinking about how does the partner drive new user engagement or maybe increase the voice and share of new users coming into our funnel and our game. So we really think about it in multiple ways, and not only are we thinking about the money aspect, but we definitely are looking at players, because once those players come in the door, there's a lot more opportunities to monetize them and keep them within the community and grow them over time. I know next week you're really going to kind of jump into esports and how brands can integrate with esports, but I'm going to touch quickly on that as we just kicked off Smite Pro League Season 8 just this past weekend. We actually have a pretty fantastic sponsorship, title level sponsorship with an endemic brand being Alienware, who's outfitted all of our players and our casters and our production studio with Alienware PCs, keyboards, mice, headsets, and monitors. But really the last piece and slightly more interesting integration we have right now is with a fantastic company called Simulmedia. And we're actually testing and building out a strategy for in-game advertising. Now, this isn't your standard mobile in-game advertising, advertising other games, just trying to get you to download and look through that. This is linear, like TV level advertising. This is this would be commercials for things like the Premier League or the newest Marvel movie coming out, or chips, or Coke products, etc. These are multi-billion-dollar industrial companies that are looking to advertise to that user base. And this kind of goes hand in hand with things that have been said earlier today, where the newest Gen Z are not looking to watch TV, but really we still want, as advertisers, to advertise to those users. And this is a great way to continue to advertise to them on the big screen in their house, on their TV. Someone had mentioned in the Q&A section as well, how do you think about advertising? And, there are some issues around games that are pay to play having advertising built into them. That's definitely a bit of a sore subject right now, and users aren't overly interested in the way that those happen. But in the free-to-play space, we've actually gamified the viewing of in-game ads. So we've actually built out an entire in-game loop, which gives you rewards for watching advertisements. And by taking the advertisement revenue with significantly high CPMs for viewership, we're able to give out a lot of fantastic content to our end user. And we kind of have it as tiered rewards over time. So you'll get an instant reward every time you watch an in-game ad, but as you accumulate ads, and that picture is obviously very hard to see, but it's 1 to 25 and it's 1 to 50, I believe, or 1 to 150. You'll get to the point where after you've watched a certain amount of ads over a period of time, you'll actually get $6, $7, $8, and even $9 of content for viewing those ads, and obviously that's offset by the revenue we're bringing in as an advertising from the advertisements as well. So we think of in-game advertising and bringing in brands as an authentic way and another revenue stream, honestly, for free-to-play games as we head into the future, where a lot of these media agencies and brands are looking to continue to show ads to those big TV screens, but they can't have them on standard commercials on TV. Obviously, you'll get into this a lot more next week around sponsorships for esports. But we're vertically integrated. So we own Smite, we own our Pro League, we own all 8 teams, and we own the advertising across all of it. So we have a lot of opportunities and thought processes around how sponsors can come in and work with us, and then also to double down and leverage into the Twitch viewership for their brand, whether it's product placement or whether it's sponsorship advertising or endemic, non-endemic, it doesn't matter. There's opportunities to be involved. There's opportunities to drive high value for brands across esports that starts end to end. And when you start to layer in things like Simulmedia as well as esports, you can start seeing how advertisers can start to become synonymous with brands in the game. So not only are you seeing it while you're watching Smite Esports, but you're seeing it while you're playing Smite. So it's a really exciting time in the free-to-play and live service ops space here. So that's really all I had for you today. We've done, some other integrations more on the endemic side with Dr. Disrespect and 100 Thieves. But for now, I'd like to kind of stop here and see if there's any other questions from the group.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I have a question for you. So it's interesting that the business Hi-Rez, as you say, you run your own teams, you run your own leagues. You're a developer as well as the publisher of the games.
That's right.
It might be an awkward question, but at what stage in that sort of development process are you sitting there thinking, oh, that might be nice to get brands involved? I mean, is it core to the development process these days, or is it still something that is perhaps thought of afterwards?
Yeah, so if you think about it, we kind of run all the gamut of video games development, publishing, esports, etc. Object one, and I'm sure every other game developer out there will attest to this, is let's make sure the game's fun and people want to play it and there's core loops and everything's up and running correctly. Let's start there. And as we start to gain traction, we start to gain that gaming insight. Is really when we can start thinking about brand integration as well as opportunities within the landscape. It's really hard to drive that kind of value for brands before you've proven the game has opportunity. So we really look at it, 6 to 18 months after launch for those first integrations, especially on the non-endemic side.
Yeah. Well, the games you make are so complex and detailed. I mean, game comes first. I understand that makes perfect sense. I'm interested in the, we heard from Michael earlier. He didn't quite say this. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but games is the death of football. And then I'm again paraphrasing what you said. Games are replacing TV as a place for brands to advertise. I mean, I don't want us to kill off every other sector out there that we love dearly, but let's think about the last sort of 12 months when we've all been spending a little bit more time at home than normal. Have you seen a change in the way that perhaps brands are engaging with video game companies?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought because as we've spent more time at home over the last year, people are thinking more about, what is the loop of engaging? And it's significantly easier for a game company to engage a user over every way that they connect, right? Social media, they can be connected on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. They can have engagement in those videos on TikTok. They can have esports or just straight people playing the game on Twitch or YouTube that can lead to continued engagement within your ecosystem. And that continued engagement within your ecosystem then drives them back into the game for playing. So we're really seeing a core loop around gaming that encompasses everything of bringing the player out of the loop of playing into engaging on social, engaging on viewership, and then coming back in and playing the game again. So I think that's one of the major reasons why these brands are having opportunity to come into games and seeing a lot of value from it, is once those players are engaged in that core loop, they're there for a long time, and they're continuing to engage on a day-to-day basis. Whereas football or a TV show, maybe it comes out one time a week, and they have to be very cognizant of that one time to watch and interact. Whereas in gaming, it's a 24/7 endeavor. I can go watch it on YouTube. I can watch it on Twitch. I can interact on social media about my favorite game. I can go watch videos on TikTok. I can play the game as part of it as well. So as brands think about it, they should be thinking about it as an all-encompassing opportunity to engage the user multiple times. You're not just talking about an in-game product or brand activation, you're talking about social media engagement, and you're talking about building YouTube videos, and the core community of content creators are going to create content around the brand integration. So there's just a lot of opportunity to kind of hit multiple places in the player's life cycle that you don't normally get from static linear IP or just viewing TV or sports.
I think that's a really nice note to end on, that sort of multiple engagement opportunities. Let's explore that as much as possible. Trevor, that's been an amazing talk. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
The event was called Engagement Opportunities for Brands, and I'm pleased to say there seems to have been a high level of engagement from our audience. Plenty of questions today, plenty of attendees. So thank you very much for joining the event today and taking part and listening to our speakers. All of the video content will be made available in the next couple of days, and the slides and the contact details, so that you can reach out to all of the people that you heard from today. Finally, I'd just like to thank Tim, David, Michael, Jamie, and Trevor for your time and your consideration today. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much, everyone. And don't forget, more on this brand engagement opportunities next week on esports. Same time, Tuesday next week. If you go to the Ukie website, ukie.org.uk, you will find a link to all of our forthcoming events. Have a nice evening. Thank you.